In the 1930s, steam engines ruled, filthy, loud, and unchallenged. Then a daring new idea promised to sweep them aside. What if you could simply add power by snapping a cableless booster onto a train and letting electricity do the work? Railroad titans gambled everything on B units, and for a moment it looked like the age of the diesel booster would change railroading forever. So why did this revolution disappear, leaving only relics behind? Let us uncover what really happened. A diesel locomotive is more than just a single machine. It is a system built for flexibility. At the heart of this concept are the A unit and the B unit. The A unit stands out with its cab, windows, and all the controls an engineer needs to run the train. Inside, you will find a prime mover, a large diesel engine connected to a generator that feeds electricity to traction motors on the wheels. Every lever, gauge, and brake handle is built for human hands. The B unit, by contrast, is a power booster stripped of creature comforts. No cab, no windows, no seats. Its exterior is smooth and unbroken, often blending into the train's streamlined profile. But under that sheet metal, the machinery is nearly identical to the A unit. The same prime mover, generator, and traction motors. What is missing is any way for a crew member to operate it directly. All the action happens elsewhere. The secret to making these units work together lies in the multiple unit cable, called MU cable. This thick cable runs between locomotives, carrying 4 main types of electrical signals: throttle position, brake commands, direction, and dynamic braking. With MU cables plugged in, an engineer in the lead A unit can control every linked locomotive as if they were one. Add a B unit and you instantly boost horsepower with no extra crew required. This simple, powerful setup transformed how railroads thought about moving heavy trains, turning a complex lineup of engines into a single coordinated machine. In 1937, the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad introduced the Electro-Motive Corporation EA and EB sets, launching a new era for mainline passenger service. These streamlined diesels with bold Art Deco styling ran as matched A and B units, one with a cab and the other a smooth, windowless booster. The concept proved itself in daily service, but freight would be the true test. 2 years later, Electro-Motive's FT model arrived. Each FTA or B unit produced 1,350 horsepower, and when 4 units were coupled, ABBA, the total reached 5,400 horsepower, enough to challenge the heaviest steam locomotives on the rails. In 1939, Electro-Motive sent an FT demonstrator set on a cross-country tour, stopping in Chicago, New York, Denver, Los Angeles, and Dallas. Railroad executives and skeptical crews watched as the diesels hauled long freights over mountain grades and through city terminals, often besting the steam power they were supposed to supplement. Orders followed quickly. That demonstrator's performance convinced major railroads that modular cab and booster sets could handle mainline freight, not just sleek passenger trains. The momentum was impossible to ignore. Soon, Alco, Baldwin, Fairbanks Morse, and Montreal Locomotive Works rolled out their own versions, each builder offering cableless boosters to pair with their cab units. Logos from these companies began appearing on new diesels across North America. By the early 1940s, the AB combination had become the industry standard. The booster was no longer a novelty. It had become the backbone of modern railroading. Not everyone cheered the arrival of the diesel booster. In rail yards and union halls, the mood was tense. Newspapers in the early 1940s ran headlines such as "Diesel locomotives threaten railroad jobs and firemen face layoffs as diesels multiply." The Brotherhood of Locomotive Firemen and Enginemen pressed its case in meetings and pamphlets, arguing that every locomotive, cab or not, still needed a trained fireman on board. For decades, firemen had been essential, feeding coal, managing the boiler, and watching the rails for trouble. Now, with a single engineer able to control multiple locomotives from one cab, the B unit's blank walls and empty interior became symbols of lost work and vanishing roles. Railroads countered with their own logic. If a B unit had no cab, no controls, and no seat, why pay for an extra crew member? In arbitration hearings and contract negotiations, company lawyers pointed to the design itself. No window, no chair, no reason for a fireman to ride along. Some agreements tried to soften the blow, offering temporary job protection or retraining, but the writing was on the wall. As more B units rolled out, union leaders warned of a slippery slope: fewer firemen today, fewer trainmen tomorrow. Yet for the operating crews who remained, there was one undeniable advantage. With ABA sets, there was no need to turn heavy engines on a Y or a turntable at the end of a run. The engineer could simply walk to the other cab and head out in the opposite direction. The new routines were efficient, but for many railroaders, the cost was measured in more than just dollars and cents. Rock Island's AB6 stands out as one of the strangest answers to a practical problem. In 1940, the railroad needed a locomotive that could lead the Rocky Mountain Rocket's short Colorado Springs section after the train split at Lyman. The solution was to take the body of a standard E-Series B unit, add a flat front, a headlight, and just enough windows for a crew to see ahead. The result looked like a B unit wearing a disguise, still streamlined along the sides but unmistakably blunt at the nose. The AB6 worked its oddball assignment for years before being reassigned to Chicago commuter service. By the end of the 1960s, both units were retired and scrapped, leaving only photographs and blueprints as evidence. While railroads experimented with hybrids, a bigger change was underway. The rise of the road switcher in the 1950s and 1960s, like Alco's RS series and EMD's GP and SD lines, redefined what a diesel could be. These new locomotives traded streamlining for utility, with wide walkways and clear sight lines down both sides. Crews could safely walk the length of the engine, and switching jobs no longer required awkward blind spots. With every unit equipped with a cab, railroads gained flexibility, and a GP9 or SD40 could lead, trail, or work alone. Still, a handful of cabless boosters made it into this new era. EMD's GP30B and SD24B, and Montreal Locomotive Works M420B appeared in small batches, mostly for Western railroads that wanted uniform, high-horsepower lash-ups. But these were exceptions. By the late 1960s, the booster was already giving way to a new, more adaptable standard. By the 1970s, passenger trains faced a new problem. Modern cars demanded more electricity for lighting, heating, and air conditioning. Amtrak's shop crews stepped in, transforming surplus B units into head-end power cars. The traction motors and diesel controls were removed, and generators and electrical panels were installed. Former boosters, once chained to the rails for brute force, now quietly supplied power to entire trains. On the Chicago and Northwestern, ingenuity took another form. Milton H. Crandall led the effort to graft homemade, boxy cabs onto retired E9B units, producing the so-called Crandall Cabs. These rebuilt engines returned to the front lines, leading commuter and intercity trains with a face only a shop crew could love. Santa Fe's Superfleet brought the B unit one last moment in the spotlight. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, the railroad revived its legendary red and silver war bonnet paint, splashing it across a new generation of high-horsepower diesels. The showpieces were the GP60M cab units, paired with a rare order of 23 cabless GP60B boosters built in 1991. These units thundered across the Southwest, hauling priority intermodal trains at track speed. The marketing push was unmistakable, with sleek paint, bold logos, and long lines of matched power stretching across the desert. For a brief time, the B unit was back at the head of the parade. Not a relic, but a symbol of Santa Fe's high-tech image and relentless drive for speed. Modern locomotives like the GE-9 and EMD-SD-70 roll out of factories with 4,000 to 4,400 horsepower in a single unit, making the old need for separate boosters vanish. Today, only a handful of B units survive. Preserved by museums or running on short lines, they're blank sides and silent engines telling stories of a different era. At the Illinois Railway Museum, volunteers keep these relics alive, sharing memories and technical know-how with visitors. Even in Australia, railways once tried their own versions, but the era of the booster has passed into history. Today, nearly every freight locomotive stands alone, with cabs at both ends, built for flexibility and visibility. Yet the B unit story warns how quickly innovation can become obsolete. As railroads chase automation and efficiency, the lesson endures. Design always answers to the needs of the moment, never to nostalgia. Thanks for watching.